Hey kids, let's make a nice homemade pizza today. 3 meats and veg. Let's do it. All right, first things first, we gotta make that crust. And this calls for a half cup of hot water and 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. So let's get that out into a bowl and we'll continue on. All right, we got our half cup of hot water. To that, we're gonna add our dough mix. I'm going to stir that all up. All right, our dough is coming together pretty well here. It's just a little bit moist. We're just going to sprinkle in just a little bit of flour. And then we're going to take this crust up a couple notches. And we're going to add some Southwest Chipotle seasoning shakes, some original salt-free, and some Italian seasoning. And we're going to mix that in. And we're going to make this into a nice flavored pizza crust. All right, when you got a nice dough ball, give it a light cover in oil. And cover it with a light towel. Let that rest for about 5-10 minutes. All right, it's been several minutes, and our dough ball is rested and ready. So tonight, I'm going to cook this in this pan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bowl, move it out of the way, throw some flour down. I'm going to roll this out. And we have our 2mm spacers today. We got a nice thin crust. All right, we got our dough rolled out. They're just slightly bigger than the bottom of our pan. And before we put it in there, we're going to use a nice thick fork to dot this several times. So that way when we pre-bake this, it will not puff all up. This is a good time to turn your oven on to 475 so we can pre-bake this. All right, we got our crust in the pan. You can see I did trim it and move it just a little. I like to have just a little bit of crust when it's done so you got something to hold on to, just like a nice woman. So we're gonna throw this in our oven. We're gonna bake this for 5-6 minutes till it starts to be just lightly golden brown. All right, we got our crust all par baked, and I went ahead and cooled it off. Not because you have to, but because I got distracted and a little bit of time passed. So you can see, even though I docked this, it did rise just a little bit, puff up, so I'm kind of push it down a little. And then we're gonna go in with our sauce, our 3 meats, turkey pepperoni, bacon, and ham, as well as sharp cheddar cheese, chipotle seasoning, garlic powder, Italian seasoning, and original seasoning blend. But I almost forgot, we have some veggies for this bad boy too. All right, here we go, all sauced up. This little hack, I like to use a basting brush to put my pizza sauce on. Find it, I like it. All right, I talked about some veggies I almost forgot. I had them sitting in the microwave. Here we have onions, peppers, and spinach. And I've added to that garlic, chipotle seasoning, Italian seasoning, and a little couple something special. So we're gonna go ahead and spread this out on top of this crust here. And then we're gonna add our 3 meats. And then we'll be back to show you what it's looking like. All right, here we go. We got our 3 meats on, our sauce, our veggies down the bottom. I did sprinkle it with my Italian seasoning, my garlic, and my other one. So let's get this bad boy cheesed up. I'm about ready to go in the oven here. All right, here we go. We're cheesed. We got an extra layer of Italian seasoning on top. Let's get this bad boy in the oven. Several minutes later, here's our finished pizza. Nice and crispy golden brown, and let's get this out onto a tray so we can cut it up. All right, here's our finished 3 meat and veg pizza. Thin crust, nice and crispy. Cut into 8 squares, almost like my pan is set up for Detroit style deep dish and not thin crust. But you gotta change it up once in a while. Now that she's all done, let's take a piece and see how she tastes. Nice, 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 nice. Mm. Mm. Mm-hmm. That's a good pizza right there, buddy. Good pizza. So folks, that's all we have for you today. A few simple steps, a little bit of work. You too can have fresh made, homemade pizza.